Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here.
The views expressed by J. Michael McCoy are the views of the hosts and guests of Max World Live, and not necessarily the views of Webcast One Live, its staff, its management, the cleaning crew, Dave the electric guy, the guy who cleans the skywalk, the woman who brought in the cookies, the management staff of Hubble Real Estate, the parking lot attendant at Keck Parking, the wait staff over at Miss Kitty's, the coffee crew at Frederick's, the man in the street corner willing to work for food, Rob Spearman, Max Crabb, or anyone else of sound mind. Should you be offended, provoked, intimidated, shocked, confused, or just made to think independently, log on to MaxWorldLive.com right now. It's your voice we want to hear in Max World. And now, live from the palatial studios of Webcast One Live, your host, J. Michael McCoy.
Thank you, Michael Libby. 4 minutes after the hour on this 7th day of July, the Lord's year 2015. We will date this show as we will talk about things that are current events and topical. So should you choose to listen to this on a podcast somewhere past today, I'm just letting you know up front, there may be some outdated stuff. I don't want you sitting there going, Mac, you idiot. Barack Obama didn't get elected again. What are you talking about? Or something like that. I'm sure anything you say will be prophetic, Tom.
That's right.
So it'll be whatever you profess to be in the future today will happen. So be careful. You're the genie we let out of the bottle.
Yeah, right.
And our special guest today is none other than the chair of the Polk County Republicans, Will Rogers. I told somebody that at church this morning that you were going to be on my show, and you should have seen the look on their face. And he leaned over to me and said, I thought he died. Do you ever get mad at your parents for doing that?
It's been a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
The blessing is that everybody remembers your name. The curse is everybody remembers your name.
Yeah.
So you always have to be on your best behavior. Otherwise, people start remembering you as, oh, there's that Will Rogers guy.
That Will Rogers guy. Yeah. Now, this first time to the new digs. What do you think?
This is great. I just a shout out. I used to come here and get my hair cut when I was about 4 years old by a guy by the name of Omar. Omar had a barber shop in here, and then he moved down to 50th and Douglas, and then moved up to about 70th and Douglas up there in Urbandale. But Omar has, I think, pretty much fully retired from cutting hair. So, it's been
you remember coming to the Merle Hay Mall Towers,
41 years ago, yeah.
Wow. Well, topographically, this is one of the highest places in Iowa. And so you add the 6 stories to that, and that gets us to our satellite dishes and everything on the roof.
So here's a little trivia question for you. What is the name of the standpipe that is here on the Merle Hay Mall grounds?
The standpipe? I don't know what a standpipe is.
All right. So just out here to the east of the tower is a blue water tower, is what you'd might hear people call it, but it's a standpipe.
Okay. And
that is basically a water facility. It helps pressurize water for the north side of the city of Des Moines.
Okay.
So, and it's, I believe it's called the Merklin standpipe.
Merklin.
So that is the Merklin standpipe. I cannot remember the exact trivia behind who it was specifically named after, but you can go out there. There's the sign out there is on it. You can take a look at that. You read those things when you're a kid and you're riding your bicycle
to Omar's
to the Merle Hay Mall when you're in junior high and high school.
Yeah.
And you got nothing better to do than to stop and look at the
the Merklin standpipe.
Yes.
Do you know what was on this location before Merle Hay Mall was built?
I believe there was a farm ground out here is what it was. But
it was a monastery.
Oh, that's right.
This was a Catholic monastery.
Did not know that.
Yep. And so I think it's kind of cool that this began. I mean, I'm sure before that it was farm ground. Of course it was. In fact, I think it was part of Charlie Gabus's. No. That'd be too long ago. Yeah,
he was old, but
not that.
But it was Merle Hay Plaza for years before it ever became a mall. They didn't even have much mall action back when it was Merle Hay Plaza.
It was an open air mall.
Yeah.
Well, I just think it's interesting that faith was the first thing built on this, a structure of faith, a lifestyle of faith. Faith was here, and now here we are, I don't know how many years later, we got faith back in Merle Hay Mall.
Yep. First movie I ever saw was in the theater that was directly adjacent here that's now closed. It was the first movie I ever saw was Snow White.
Snow White.
Second movie I ever saw was The Apple Dumpling King.
Oh, yeah.
The first movie I ever saw in a theater without an adult in attendance with us was when I was in 1981. A couple of my friends and I, my mom dropped us off. It was Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, a classic.
Wow.
A classic.
And now that theater is closed, but they have plans for it.
I hope so.
Yeah, they do. They have plans for that space. All right, enough about me. I want to back up. I want to start with this Confederate flag in the back of the Marion County pickup or something in a parade. I'm just hearing bits and pieces about this. Is this anything?
Yeah, I think that Jeff Kaufman, I think his statement from what I heard him say on the earlier in the last day or so, there's just no place for it in Republican politics, especially here in Iowa. We don't need to have people trying to make a political statement by incorporating the Confederate flag into our county party activities, our state party activities. And the fact is that, Iowa was with the North.
Yeah.
We were with the Union.
Yeah. So, all right.
But I can see the sentiment involved in. I drove by a house that's been very conservative on their signage and everything for years, and he's now flying a Confederate flag. I can understand the resentment of the politically correct tidal wave that's sliding through the entire country and trying to raise a point. I don't agree with this, and perhaps it's misplaced, especially here in Iowa. And I don't disagree with Kaufman, but I understand the sentiment, and I share some of those sentiments.
Yeah. I guess Tom, and just for people to put this in perspective, and we don't need to answer the question, but would we want to see people? Do we like it when people fly the Mexican flag around Iowa, or do we like it when we see people flying the Union Jack, or perhaps even more to an extreme, the swastika? You know, I mean. The fact is that something that, just because you can probably doesn't mean you should.
Well, it doesn't matter to me, but that means it doesn't matter to me. It means that if I've got a neighbor that wants to fly the Confederate flag, I don't care. But here's what I think's interesting. The Israel flag has become in dispute. The Nazi flag, obviously, the swastika, has been in dispute for years. Now it's the Confederate flag that's in dispute. All of those started with freedom and ended with hatred.
Well, they want to go so far now, Mac, there's a move to take down the Jefferson Memorial in D.C.
Why?
Well, because Jefferson was a slave owner. And he begat...
you can't rewrite history.
Well, I understand that. You can't rewrite a lot of parts of history now that have been carved out of our public education. Why do you think that very few of our younger generation even understand what the 4th of July is for? How many of them are absolutely illiterate when it comes to history, civics? It is intentional on the part of the left, and they've been very successful. And we stand back and said, "Oh well, what does that hurt me? What does that hurt my marriage if they legalize gay marriage? So what if the kids have to choose what bathroom they want to use on how they feel that day with a transgendered activity?" I mean, so when do you take a stand? And for some people, it's flying the Confederate flag. Say, to heck with you.
Yeah.
I'm not going along with that political correctness any longer.
Can I just say, though, I mean, the Confederate flag, you said earlier, that it started with freedom. It didn't start with freedom. In fact, I mean, yes, they wanted the freedom to own slaves.
Yeah.
That's, but
there was more to it, though, Will. I mean, that's a mischaracterization.
Well, if you look at the Articles of Confederacy, and I believe it's in 90%, I don't know the exact number, all mention the freedom to own slaves.
Well, it was in there, but there was much of the economics that were involved at that point also. The economics, in fact, Lincoln was on record as saying if he could have just allowed the slavery to go on, he would have allowed that. It wasn't just that created the Civil War.
I don't think that many people at the time especially after the war, and the expense in human lives that it cost, or even at the time, looked at the slaughter of human beings that was taking
600,000
place
plus
in our country
at a time where we only had
and
a
didn't
small
think
number.
that was a terrible price to pay.
Of course, I mean,
for the
can you
sin
imagine
of slavery.
What was the population of the United States of America in the 1860s?
I forget what the percentage was, but it was a large percentage, especially of young men between the ages of like 15 and 30 that were sent to war, that were killed and then also maimed.
Have we lost as many men subsequent wars as we lost in Civil War?
I don't believe so.
At least a few years ago, we hadn't, and over 600,000 were killed in the Civil War. Tremendous bloodletting, and it wasn't just about slavery. I think the revisionists would like to have you think it was solely about slavery, and it was not.
But my point is that flag represents, to some people, yes, it might represent freedom. It might represent, certain other values that we might think are positive. But the majority of people in this country, that flag represents, whether they've been conditioned to think that, Tom, or whatever the circumstances are, that flag represents something that's less attributable.
I understand. You cannot capitulate to this crowd, Will, and satisfy them and say, that's enough. The Washington Redskins, that's another issue. The religious freedom that's going to be now sacrificed with the Supreme Court latest decision on gay marriage. And you cannot capitulate far enough to this crowd that will satisfy them.
I think it's a mistake, though, Tom, to link something like the Confederate flag.
I'm not. I don't personally care that much, but I'm saying I understand the sentiment. And where do you draw your line, Will?
Talk into the mic, please.
Where do you draw your line? I mean, you understand what I'm saying. And I don't think you disagree with me. If it's not the Confederate flag, where do you draw your line and say this is far enough?
Well, I certainly want to pick it on a subject that I think that is something that means something to me.
Okay.
The Confederate flag means absolutely nothing.
I appreciate that. So where do you draw your line?
Okay, well, we can talk about that. Let's see what issues. Let's talk about the issue of life. Okay. Unequivocally, unapologetically pro-life, Tom. And I think that's where, I know that there's a large number of Americans that don't share the same sentiment as I do.
But they're a minority.
I would consider them to be a minority.
There's a small minority that believe the destruction of life at any stage is acceptable. If you take out rape, incest, threat to the woman's life, the majority of Americans now, and for quite a few years, have rejected that abortion is okay. But that's still not the order of the day, and our own Governor Terry Branstad has taken a lot of heat recently for some different issues, including his condemnation of the court allowing for the telemed rural abortions.
And here's my point. I would rather have us pick that fight as Republicans, as conservatives, as people of faith, than be going around talking about the flag.
Okay.
There we go.
Right. But
I'm sorry,
but we
the
are
Confederate
getting flooded.
flag.
Yeah.
We are getting flooded. There's not just one or two issues. We are being flooded by this guy and by Obama and his minions. And it's not like we can just pick out one or two. We're getting, across the board broadsides all the time from this guy. Whether it's the border, whether it's marriage, whether it's Iran, all the things that hopefully we'll talk about some of them today. It is one outrage after another, and many people are just becoming callous to it. They're throwing up their hands and saying, I'm not going to deal with it anymore. I'm just going to live my own life. Well, that kind of capitulation means that you are ceding the power and the control for absolutely everything in your life to the opposition.
Okay.
No comment?
He started to comment, and then
We're going to take a break anyway. All right, when we come back, are you gentlemen going to continue this dueling?
No, I don't think we're dueling. I'm just venting a little bit.
Yes, you are. Yeah, okay. Let's come back, and let's talk about the presidential candidates. Because there's 19 now?
Yeah, if you add up the Democrats.
Yeah. We'll talk about that, especially the GOP field. We'll do that when we come back. Will Rogers is our guest. It's Max World Live with Tom Coates, here live on The Truth, 99.3.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah!
If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If you sit in the back pew or the front pew, it's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
21 minutes after the hour on this gorgeous 7th day of July in the Lord's year 2015. I just can't believe it. It was cooler outside this morning than it was in my house. That was wonderful. Will Rogers is here. He's a chairman of the Polk County Republicans and also just how do I say this? We're really fortunate that the handful of guys that come on the program regularly are all very genuine. And there doesn't seem to be a narrative. You don't have a narrative. We ask you a question, you give the answer, you know. And we really appreciate you for that reason. I mean, many times, Tom, Tom will say many times, he won't say it in front of another guest, but he'll say after a guest has been here, we need to get Will in here and ask him that. And I want to know what Will says about that. And I said, well, you could just call him on the phone rather than drag him down here. But he likes to have you on the air. So, all right, 222, I want to talk about GOP candidates. Will Rogers endorse anybody?
I don't believe it's my position as county chairman to endorse anybody.
I agree.
And
except the nominee after it's over. Oh,
yeah,
obviously.
No question about that. Whoever our nominee is going to get my full political support. I'm excited about a lot of the people that are running. There's a few that I've probably wouldn't consider on my short list, but there's a broad group of people right now that I'm considering and think would make good presence of our country, and would like to, on caucus night, I'll definitely know who I'm going to be supporting and will participate.
You already know now.
No, like I said, I've got it I'm narrowing it down. But
can you narrow it down to 5 for us? Will they say we may have as many as 5 tickets coming out? Can you maybe handicap at this point, maybe a top half dozen or something?
Well, I can't. When I say that, I mean I can't narrow it down to just 5 people that I'm gonna.
And I'm not. Let's put it the other way. Let's say, can you narrow it down to 5 or 6 candidates that you think would be favored at this point, given what you're seeing?
I think certainly here in Iowa, there's some folks that you can obviously, just looking at the poll numbers that are obviously gaining traction here in Iowa, whether that traction continues to pick up or not isn't really, when I say that, Scott Walker is still, I believe in the more recent polls, is at 18%. Mm-hmm. I don't think that anyone's not considering to be the front runner. However, it's not. I heard someone say the other day it was a runaway front runner. I think the person misspoke. 18 points is not a runaway. Even in this crowded of a field, those numbers can shift somewhat over the next 6 months.
It seems like every time somebody new comes in, it shifts. Not necessarily to the new guy, but it shifts.
I just think that throughout this next 6 months, you're going to see a lot of different people catch some wind in their sails. They're going to have a chance for people in the country especially in Iowa, to get to know them, realize what they're about, get excited about them. You're going to see some of those poll numbers move. Scott Walker, I think just because of his being close to Iowa, he's got the kind of personality that Iowans are comfortable with. Mm-hmm. He's got a great message. By the way, they all have a great message. They all have a great story to tell. Then also, I think they've done a good job of building organization. They've done all the right things so far. That's not to say that, Dr. Ben Carson, again, I mean, great story. Mm-hmm. He gets people here in Iowa excited about who he is and what the issues that he talks about. And then also they have had, an organization that's a peripheral organization of Ben Carson that's been active in the state for about 2 years now.
Yes, they've got kind of more than a running start at this. You see any dark horses coming out of the?
Hold on. Let me just before you go there. I want to back up. Are you available as the Polk County chairperson to work for a candidate?
Well, I don't know that there's anything that would restrict me from working for a candidate. If I worked for them, it's basically it would be a backdoor endorsement. If I'm like, I can't publicly endorse anybody, but if I went to work for, Marco Rubio and his campaign, I would be in a way endorsing him with my.
I think that's unethical. I agree with him. I think that would be an unethical move.
So let's say you're not the chair of the Polk County Republicans right now.
Right.
Who would you want to go work for?
Oh, I have a whole bunch of them that I'd love to be in the room with.
I'm trying to get him here.
I know.
I'm doing the Denzel Adams or whatever that guy was.
No, I'd just be really honest with you. I mean, there's, from the people like Carly Fiorina to Lindsey Graham, Dr. Carson, Scott Walker, Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio,
who
Rick
would
Perry.
you work for?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
is that an unfair question to ask the Polk County chair?
That's an unfair question to ask. However, realistically, I mean, I'm just thinking about this. There are a few candidates out there that like I said, I've eliminated from my short list. I don't want to be public about it because two things. I don't want to have people, I don't want my opinion influencing other people one way or the other. I don't want people to get excited about, me, saying something like, a candidate isn't, that I'm not going to support. I don't want them, saying, oh, well, I'm not going to support that candidate either. Or I want people to think for themselves. I want them to make their own decisions up about this. I think the caucus process, personally, it's a great process. Anybody can come in and, if you get excited about if you get one person excited about your race and they can get out there and will go out and do the phone calls and the door knocking and the lit dropping and doing the email and getting out and really working for a candidate, they can make a real difference for somebody here in the state of Iowa.
All right. Will Rogers is my guest today. Max World Live with Tom Coates. Tom, take it.
The furor right now is about Donald Trump. Some people have acted, at least the template is that they're outraged over certain comments that Donald Trump has said. My observation, Will, is that he is saying what a lot of people think. I think he's coming into a wheelhouse that allows him access because he is more bombastic and candid than most of the other candidates, and he's high profile with his national television show over the years and so on and so forth, to feed into a certain psychology that I think is interesting. I think it'll spice up the race. I don't think there's any doubt about that. What I would tell some of the candidates is to be very careful with him, and I want to get your take on this, because I have very strong living memories of what happened in 1992.
He promises he won't. He swore in public that he wouldn't run as an independent.
I don't care.
Okay.
I think this is the danger. H. Ross Perot, I think, had a personal grudge against Pappy Bush back in 92. And while none of the Democrats will put up their A-game players, they let a lesser-known Arkansas governor named Bill Clinton come in and run. He was supposed to be a sacrificial lamb against Pappy Bush after Operation Desert Storm made him seemingly invincible. And then H. Ross Perot came in and took about 18% of the vote. Most of that came from Pappy Bush, and he let Bill Clinton win. In fact, Bill Clinton won twice and never got 50% of the vote. Now, I think that's the potential risk that they run if they bash Donald Trump to the point that he says, I'll show you, I'll run as this independent candidate. First off, do you think there's any chance of that? And secondly, what do you think about all the Donald Trump furor that's coming out from both sides right now?
All right. Well, do I think there's the possibility that Donald Trump would end up running as a third-party candidate? That's always within the realm of possibility. It really just depends on how big the man can let his ego get away from him.
Mm-hmm.
The fact is if he doesn't win the Republican nomination, or he drops out early because he knows he's not going to win the Republican nomination and decides to go out as a third-party candidate, that's certainly in the realm of possibility. I don't really have any interest in even handicapping it. I mean, it's just...
He won't do it. I think he'd lose all credibility everywhere. He would become the Barnum Bailey that he so many people see him as anyway. But his money, you got to give him a little respect for how he's made his money. He has done it the right way. He's honestly earned it. But if he goes...
Well, I don't know about that, Mac. We could get into his background. His father was a slumlord in New York. He inherited slum property. I mean, he's filed bankruptcy 4 times to come out each time smelling better than he did before from a financial standpoint. So he's used certain things that most people might find a little bit unsavory. But beyond that point, are you saying that you think his character is such, in spite of some of these and other things, that he would be immune to the kind of ego trip that Will is talking about?
Yeah, I just don't think he'll run as a third
I hope
party.
not. And we asked Sam
really
last
don't.
week, and Sam didn't think he would, and I hope he doesn't.
No.
I still think that's a danger.
I think if you look at Donald Trump,
It's the death of us if he does it.
That's right.
Yeah, because he'll pull a Ross Perot and
He would give it to Hillary or whoever runs on the Democratic side.
yeah.
I think if you just look at this for just a moment, though, and Donald Trump's negatives in the polling are the highest of any Republican GOP nominee so far. He while he's going to compete and he's going to do moderately well in some of the, I would say moderately in some of the early states where the field will be very full, he will not, as the race continues, be nearly as successful, in my opinion.
Okay.
So I think that, maybe he'll be in the top 10 in the GOP debate. Maybe he'll make it through the Iowa caucus. Maybe he'll make it through New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina. Before you know it, I think after that, after the first big Super Tuesday, he'll be off the ballot.
Okay.
I'm not saying I want him. Do not hear this as an endorsement. I don't know who I want. I just want a Republican. That's really all. I'm kind of like a dad having another baby. I don't care if it's a boy or girl. I just want it healthy.
Right.
All right. Given that, I think a lot of people in this country, and I am one of them, would just like to try something different. Okay. Would just like to get out of this mainstream politician guy and just say, what if? What if a guy like this could make it work? What if an R. Ross Perot or somebody like this? And I think Paul is another guy that people thought about this way 20 years ago. What if?
I mean, I just want to say this. If you want to, there's two things that are working against one another. There's the president you want, and then there's the president we need, right? Mm-hmm. And I just give you an example. This is a little not American history, but this is British politics. And if you look back to Winston Churchill, mm-hmm. he wasn't the prime minister England wanted. Right. He was the prime minister England needed, especially in World War II. And as soon as World War II was over with, they couldn't get rid of him quick enough. Hey,
that's amazing, but true.
And so, yes, we have to have at some point the president that is going to be capable of doing the job and doing the job well enough to fix a lot of the problems that we have and help steer us in the right direction. Now, that isn't going to be done in one presidency, by the way. I mean, I don't think anybody think that of all the problems that we have in our country today, right now, that we're going to solve that in 4 years or 8 years under a new president?
I don't know. We're going to take a break. I don't know what would happen if we actually had a dominant Republican administration, Congress, and Senate. I don't know. Maybe I'm just dreaming. I like purple dinosaurs, too. I'm just dreaming. All right, when we come back, we got way hung up on Donald Trump. Or I did. That was my fault. So we'll go to some of the other candidates. The other side of my brain, the Electoral College side, says it ought to be Bush and Perry. Because then they take Florida and they take Texas. They take most of the South. I don't know. We'll talk about that when we come back live here on The Truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
If you sit in the back pew or the front pew, it's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
22 minutes before the top of the hour. Salem Radio Network News at the top. And then I should just say it right. It's Tom Coates' favorite talk show host in the whole world. Except for Tom Coates. The Steve Deace, live this afternoon, 3 to 5, as he is every afternoon, back home in Afternoon Drive on the radio, covering Central Iowa. The Steve Deace, live from 3 to 5 here on The Truth 99.3. Our guest today is Will Rogers. He's the chairman of the Polk County Republicans. And I got a Brad Facebooked me and said, what do you think about Carly
Fiorina?
Say it.
Fiorina.
Mm-hmm. Carly Fiorina.
Yes.
What do you think of Carly Fiorina?
I like her a lot. I think she'd be a great president. She's got a great message. She's been, as far as her, I guess the things that, that distinguish her from some of the other people out there, she's got a great message. When she goes after Hillary Clinton, she does it in a way that really kind of, really distinguishes her record from Hillary Clinton's record.
Yeah.
And she does a great job of talking about herself and her responsibilities in the business world, and also the responsibility she's had in chairing nonprofit organizations, things like that. She's got a great message, and everybody should at least check these people out that are running. They should at least get to know. We're Iowans. We're spoiled. We get the opportunity to go see these people. We get the opportunity to hear what they have to say. By all means, people should go and check Carly Fiorina out.
Can Carly say things about Hillary that none of the other male candidates can?
Quite possibly.
Okay. Just because she's a girl.
Yes.
Okay. Cat fights are fun to watch.
I've heard they've had those out in a place in Clive.
Yes, they have. All right, Tom, go ahead.
In fact, I just got a text from Taylor. Apparently, his man Bobby just did an interview with the Des Moines Register editorial board, and he sent me a link. You and I and some other people met with Bobby recently. I was favorably impressed. I didn't hear anybody that wasn't. Simon was at that luncheon, and he said that afternoon, he said, I really believe that you're the brightest candidate of all. That doesn't mean he'd be the best president, but from an intellectual standpoint, it might be hard to argue that Bobby Jindal isn't perhaps the brightest. And he said something at that luncheon, Will, that struck me. He said, like it or not, he said Barack Obama set out to be a transformational president. He said, I want to be like Ronald Reagan, who he felt was a transformational president. Now, he's transformed us into something that none of us in this room like. But he says, I think we need a transformational president to follow him to bring the country back to where it ought to be. And you mentioned Jeb Bush before we got in. I like W, and I like the old man. And I don't dislike Jeb, but I do believe that from the things that I'm seeing, Jeb would be a moderate candidate. If he were president, he would trim around at the edges, and he would accept the status quo on the things that have been transformed. And I believe that if we're going to do what we need to do, we need somebody that with the guts and the backbone and the brains and everything else to get in, and some experience to get in there and change us back to where we were. Will, I want to get your thoughts on that point.
Well, I mean, Tom, talking about what we need in terms of our country, it's certainly important that we, number one, we get somebody that once they're elected, they're going to do the right things. There's no question about that. And I don't have, with the people that are announced so far, I think most of everyone there, I could say within a certain, 90% or above, they're going to do the right things. They're going to be the right type of people that we're going to need to have be president. That being said, we have to win, all right? And at the end of the day, and Mac, this is to go to your point a little bit earlier, and that is, you want to try something different. You want to try something that's going to maybe be almost a shock to this, maybe a little shocking to the system right now, what we've done in our country. And that's maybe what we'd get in Donald Trump to an extent, or a third-party candidate, that type of, H. Ross Perot that you mentioned earlier. However, at the end of the day, we've got to win. All right? There's
yes.
Our good old friend Bob Vanderplatz. He famously said in one of his stump speeches, he said, if we don't win, we don't govern. And that's exactly the point here. If we don't control, like here in Iowa, we don't control the Iowa Senate, we really don't have a full way of setting the agenda at the Iowa State House. We got Governor Branstad, we got the Iowa House, but we don't have the Senate.
Well, I appreciate that. But I hear people sitting around the radios or driving down the road saying right now, we had a wave election in 2014. We put a majority in the U.S. Senate. We put a supermajority in the U.S. House. What did we get for it? And in time and time again, when they have an opportunity to stand up and oppose, because they were elected to stop Barack Obama. And it appears to me, and I think a lot of other people out there, that John Boehner and Mitch McConnell are unwilling to stand up and really fully oppose this guy. Yeah, we won, but what did we win?
Well, the question is what do you mean by fully oppose? Do you mean like shut down the government?
No, I don't mean shutting down the government. I mean doing things in regards to the border, the immigration issue, to doing things to force the international policies. I mean, just recently, Barack Obama refused to put heavy armaments in the Kurds, which would have allowed them to stand up and fight equally with the ISIS, which had stolen our own arms when the Iraqis ran from the fight.
Okay. How are we doing on time?
You're good.
Tommy, I'm John Boehner right now. Tell me what I'm going to do to help secure the border.
Why don't we? They are telling their border guards right now not to follow the laws. They're telling them to let them come across. And if they try to enforce the laws...
President Obama is.
Yes, his administration is directing those border guards to allow the illegal aliens, criminal felons or otherwise, to march up here with impunity. Now, I think the U.S. House has the power of the purse string. I think we could do some things. We could do something with the lawless IRS, Lois Lerner, which went ahead and they destroyed her emails. Do something in regards to funding or not funding some of these activities. They could do things that they are not doing, and I'm not coming in with a list. I could come in with a long list of things that they are not doing, and it's frustrating to many of us that they're not standing up tall. The thing that John Boehner stand up tall is when a Steve King or a Blunt from the eastern part of the state don't vote for him for the leadership role. He punishes them. That's what he'll stand tall for. He's not stand tall against Obama. He's working with him on some secret trade agreement that nobody can see the light of day on, and he's trying to push that through. That's what he's working on.
I find it ironic that this is, of all the things, by the way, that TPA, by the way, which is for the previous 7 presidents had come to Congress and asked and been granted trade promotion authority. President Obama didn't ask for it, by the way, for that extended period of time because he didn't want to make the unions mad at him or the Democrats, right? I mean, we know that, all right? That's a given. And now it's a secret trade agreement.
Why won't they let it see the light of day?
If
it's not secret, why won't they reveal it? They won't even let somebody come down with a camera and take a picture or anything.
Has the trade bill been approved yet? No. Okay. This trade bill will be picked apart by people, and there'll be people that will, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, is going to be criticized by people on the right and criticized by people on the left. And they're going to politicize it. The matter of fact is that whether you like NAFTA or you don't like NAFTA, NAFTA was a trade bill just like, I mean, and it's funny that we're having that political debate about it.
All right, we're going to take our last break. When we come back, I want to have a short conversation. Go ahead. Well, you want to pick that up again when we come back and finish that? All right, we'll talk about that trade deal. And then I want to talk about a winning ticket. I mean, I'm really becoming a low information voter, I guess. I'm become what my competitor is all these years. I just want to win. What's it going to take to win? We'll talk about that with Will Rogers, Tom Coates, Ryan's producing. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Thanks for listening to The Truth 99.3.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids? Yeah!
If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If you sit in the back pew or the front pew, it's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
10 minutes for the top Salem Radio Network news, then the Steve Deace live in Afternoon Drive once again right here on The Truth 99.3. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Tom Coates in the house. Ryan producing. Our guest, Polk County Republican Chairperson Will Rogers. You were talking about a trade thing. Go. I don't want to cut you off. Finish that, and then I'll ask my question.
I think the point that I was just trying to make about Trade Promotion Authority is we shouldn't use it as political football and kick it around. I mean, if it's a bad deal, it's a bad deal. If the Iran nuclear deal is a bad deal, it's a bad deal. I wanted to also add one more point, though, on that is very similar to trade promotion right now, and that's the Import-Export Bank, right? That is a federal. It's a federal, I want to call it. It's not an agency, but it's a basically what it is it's a tool that businesses like here in Iowa, like John Deere and other manufacturers, utilize this to help secure credit for people that are overseas that want to buy their products. This has, again, been a very useful tool. Mm-hmm. It's not got a lot of bad examples of, it's not like 90% of the deals are bad or something like that. This is a good resource for countries and businesses that want to do business with here in Iowa.
So you'd be in favor of Obama's...
It's expired, but you would be in favor of its reintroduction.
I would be in favor of it being renewed, yes.
Okay. Let's go before we run out of time. Terry Branstad has done some things in the last week or so that has brought him into a lot of fire. The Republicans don't seem to be defending him. The Democrats and the liberal media, Obradovich's column today is a good example. Will, I want to get your opinion. He's done the telemed abortions I mentioned earlier. He's verbally opposed that and wanted to come back on the justices that said it was okay. He also moved against the one-time funding, $50-some million for school education. He's also vetoed the compromise plan they had about the mental health facilities that he wants to shut down. On that last point, I talked to a Democrat that's been very active for a long time. He said that some of the Democrats up on the Hill have admitted to him that some of those institutions that Terry wants to shut down are exceedingly expensive, over $130,000 a year per patient. That's not practical continuum. They hoped they'd shut them down because they had some better cost alternatives, and yet they agreed they were going to continue to vilify him in public for doing just that. I want to get your impression. To me, Branstad's done a couple, three things recently that I applaud him for, and he's caught a lot of flack for. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that, no question, Governor Branstad, he's always been, I think, very clear about what he wants and expects from the legislature and what he's willing to sign off on and what he's not willing to sign off of. I wasn't a part of any negotiations that went on at any of these things because they're not issues that I typically involve myself with at the State House. Mm-hmm. However, I'll give you an example. I don't think that anyone thinks that $130,000 a year spent on a mental health patient is a good financial position of the state. I think there's alternatives certainly there. At the same time, I think that we also have to step back and say, is mental health going to be one of those things that we're going to be taking an active responsibility at the state level? You can certainly agree or disagree on that, but I don't think that $130,000 a year is financially responsible. I also think that Governor Branstad, in terms of the one-time monies, I think that's a very responsible move actually on his part, and I'll tell you why. One-time money is, and I love this because one of the comments that I heard from one of the teachers groups that was interviewed said this is, well, now they're going to have to cut spending on education. Well, if it wasn't already in your budget, then how are you going to cut it?
He was consistent, Will. He said 1.25%. Plan on 1.25% increase, which isn't a cut. Doggone it. And the amount that they've spent in some of these other states, some of these other communities, some of the highest per capita pupil spending areas in this country have some of the lowest standards and have some of the lowest quality product of education of these children. So it isn't just throw more money at it and we can expect a better product. It doesn't work that way. Some of the lower spending per capita areas turn out a higher quality product. He told them 1.25%. If they had taken and run that $50-some million as one-time funding, they would have considered next year, well, we had it last year, right. We want it this year.
Absolutely.
I think he was absolutely right, and he has been beat up and down, and it doesn't look to me like the Republicans are standing up to protect him on this. They're running for the tall grass.
Well, I mean, ultimately, Governor Branstad doesn't have to pay any additional political price at this point. And he's, unless he's going to run for another term, which I don't think that, you or I or Mac or anybody else really expects him to do that. No. I think that ultimately, he can make decisions based upon without any
political, but he can do it for principle, and I applaud him for that. It doesn't look like many other people are standing up to say much in support of him, and I hope that he's strong enough to go forward on. I like that action.
All right, one more little conversation, if we can, before you go. I'm not prophetic. If I had my choice, this probably wouldn't be my heart's favorite choice. I think this thing's going to come down to Clinton and Bush. I think it's going to be Jeb, and he's going to pick the Republican that can get him the most amount of electoral votes. I think that's going to be the entire thinking process. I already like Jeb's logo. It doesn't say what? Bush. It's just Jeb 2016. Now, the low information voters will beat him up based on his papa and his brother, but I think the other side, whatever you want to call us, will beat up Hillary because of her husband and Barack Obama. So in the end, it's just a good old-fashioned power broker against a power broker, and who's got the most amount of money?
Well,
Thoughts?
I mean, certainly money is very, very critically important to this process. I mean, I know that shouldn't be the case, but it is. I also know that, like you said, low information voter, there's a lot of people they're going to vote for. They're going to vote for the person that they like. They're going to vote for the person, when I say like, who's the most likable person? Who's the person, you've heard this, the person they want to go have a beer with? They also are going to vote for the person that looks the best, right? Who looks, the most attractive physically. I know that really seems maybe, how can that possibly be? And, you're just kind of stunned by that maybe a little bit.
No,
but at the same time, and so I'm going to say this. I mean, you could have someone who's just absolutely brilliant, would make the best president, is right on all the issues for you, checks all the boxes, and yet if the person's got a third eyeball on their forehead, they got no shot at becoming president.
Right.
That's why Richard Nixon lost to JFK. We just entered the TV generation at that point, and that 5 o'clock shadow and that debate, they say, cost him the election. Radio, he won. TV, he lost. Hillary Clinton neither looks good nor sounds good, and I think the more she talks, the more she's going to kick herself in the head, and I do not believe, if she is their candidate, that she'll win.
All right, Will, thanks for being here. Tom, thanks for being here. Ryan, thanks for producing. For you, you know what? Come on, it's Tuesday. Forgive them already. Because as you forgive, you shall be forgiven. I'll see you in church.